Want help to grow your business? Download BRiN, the world's first business advisor in your pocket. To find out more, visit BRiN.ai or search the App Store today.
Hi, I'm Beaumont and welcome to Secrets Exposed. This is the show that takes you up close and personal with world-leading business experts. And our topic for this interview is the 8 fundamentals of becoming a great digital marketer. That coming up in just a moment. My special guest today is leading internet and digital marketer, Greg Cassar. And our topic for this interview is the 8 fundamentals to becoming a great digital marketer. Thanks very much for joining us, Greg.
Excellent. Thank you for having me, Dale.
All right, we're talking about your most favorite subject, digital marketing. When did you first get excited about digital marketing?
Great question. Google first really brought out AdWords in 2000. And so year 2003 was when I really first started getting online. I was really into property and we launched a site, propertybooks.com.au, started selling info and courses about basically how to invest in property. And then a whole bunch of different business owners and entrepreneurs asked me, how are you doing that? How are you getting such good results? And over time, we then morphed into, helping a lot of other different business owners. But that was really how we got our first start. Made a whole bunch of mistakes, as everyone does when you first get started. And because I was technical, we did a lot of things the slow way, coding things that, we should have done, used more automated things. So made a heap of mistakes along the way, but really started to get some great results and just went on from there.
So what have been some of your biggest achievements to date? And in terms of online revenue, have you generated millions of dollars in sales?
Yeah, definitely, because we've worked with over 300 businesses now, both ours and different clients that we've worked with.
And they're clients from all over the world, right?
Yeah, all over the world, mainly in the US and Australia, and companies, basically in between $500,000 and $100 million type range. So we've really generated sales in between the high tens and really low hundreds of millions of dollars now that we've been directly involved with. We've driven over 1.8 million leads. We just did a recent, tally of all the leads that we've driven.
1.8 million leads.
Yeah, 1.8 million leads that we've been directly, responsible for and can track, through our analytics and that kind of stuff. So that's a lot. We've got really, really good at lead generation. And also we've done a few things like product launches, etc. And the biggest one of those is around the $750,000 mark. So when you're doing $750,000 over, 2 weeks or something like that, where it all builds up to a spike. That was certainly, one of the highlights, in that space. But lots of different runs on the board over time.
And I know that you've conducted thousands of tests, right? Split tests, as they're often called. And so I just wanted to make that point because, we're not just going to be talking about theory. You actually do a lot of measuring. So we're talking from fact, not fiction.
Agreed, because with split testing, I guess you've got a theory of this is the best version of our website or this is the best version of our page, but is it really? So if you create another version of it and then run them against each other in the most simplest form, you might find, actually, hang on, this one pulls more leads or it pulls more sales, and so then you'd run with it again and then do it again over and over and over again, and that's kind of how you get good at conversion optimization and driving a lot of leads. Everyone focuses on more traffic, but really that's the key. That's a secret to getting more and more leads.
Now we're going to go through the 8 fundamentals shortly,
okay.
And we're going to deliver lots of great value in this presentation, I know. But let's talk about a few more things before we get into that. Why do you think more business owners need to embrace digital marketing?
Yeah, good question. This whole area, digital marketing, it's not going to go away. If you look at the growth curve of the internet, we're really still kind of in its infancy as to where it's going to go. So it's an exciting time to be online, and it's a great time for business owners to really put your stake in the ground. With businesses these days, you really got to think about that the first touch that a lot of people have with your business probably is your website. You know what I mean? It's not necessarily they're walking into your storefront if you even have one these days. So it's very important that when they first get there, that they know exactly what you're about, and that they know, whether or not it's for them, that kind of thing. So, and the benefits that you would give them. So really, it's about being that first point of call and really helping them with what they want and what they need.
Now, for the people out there that go, well, look, I run a traditional business,
Yeah.
do I need to really pay attention to this whole internet thing. What would you say to those people?
Absolutely, because if you think about it, like say if you go back 10 to 15 years ago, if you needed to find something, what you'd do is you'd grab out the yellow pages or the white pages. But if you think about it, even with yourself, when was the last time you grabbed the yellow pages or the white pages? You just don't really do it anymore. Hey, if you need to find something, you'll Google it, or you might get recommendations or referrals, from other friends, people who've shared or liked, that kind of thing. So, for example, with a local business like what you're talking about, one we were working with very recently was a local gym. So you might think, they just need people to turn up to their door, but their customers are predominantly, from within a 7 or 8 kilometre radius around them. So there's no reason why you can't be raising the awareness within that local group. So figuring out who exactly your customer is, your perfect customer is, and giving them value in advance, with Facebook video view ads or whatever, or making it just so that they can easily be found. If you're looking for a gym in that suburb name, then you pop up and maybe in Google Maps or something like that. So it doesn't really matter what type of business it is. The whole digital marketing stuff is very, very relevant. And digital marketing isn't just about web browsers these days. It's about all facets of digital. Like, when was the last time you went out without your smartphone? Do you know what I mean? So your digital presence really has to work these days from the phone, or maybe even the watch, although I don't think many people optimize for the watch these days, but, from the phone, through the phablet, which is a cross between a phone and a tablet, to the tablet, to the laptop, the desktop, and even, the big screen TV, that kind of thing. So you've got to think about all these different mediums, not just, a web browser.
And I reckon in the next 5 years, we're not even going to call it digital marketing, because it's just marketing at the end of the day, right?
Yeah,
because
that's right.
It's just going to become the way in which most people grow their business.
Yeah, absolutely. We do a lot of online stuff and we do a lot of offline stuff. The advantages of the digital, online stuff is it's much more trackable, much more measurable, where if you run a TV ad or if you run an ad in a magazine, unless you've got a unique location that you're sending people to, it's a lot harder to track that we put X dollars in and we got Y leads and Z sales out of it. Whereas with digital, everything's, trackable with links and that kind of stuff. So you can really figure out what's giving you a return on investment and what's not. So, because there's a saying in marketing that waste is the enemy of return on investment. So most marketing campaigns, have the ability to be profitable. It's just really about figuring out, actually, this bit's working, but that bit's rubbish. So let's cull that out, and we're putting in good money and spitting out more. So it's really a great way to track and measure using digital. I love that stuff.
And I've heard a marketer say once before, I know that I lose half of my money on marketing. I just don't know which one, like which half am I throwing down the toilet? And that's really the challenge, right? Is to work out what's working, what's not, and keep doing what's not working and stop doing what's not working.
Agreed, absolutely. So you're so wise in that area. So really just figuring out what's the winners and running your winners long. And then not everything you do is, even when you get to our level, not everything you're going to do is going to smack it out of the park. But just being able to identify those, really, really quickly and cut them off, things that are not profitable. One of the biggest things we see is business owners, marketers, entrepreneurs being emotionally tied to their result. So they get really upset if something didn't work and that kind of thing. Whereas we just look at it as it's just a result. It's just feedback from the market. So if something didn't work, no problems. And we just say next. I think next is a very, very powerful word in marketing. If that didn't work, next. Okay, what are we going to do next? What's the next thing that we're going to do? But when you get on something really, really good, then scale it. Because often business owners and entrepreneurs, they get bored with stuff first. They might get bored with it before the market does. So if you get on a winner, keep it running long.
Now, you're talking about return on investment. Have you got a couple of examples? You don't have to mention company names of when you put in, a certain amount of money and you've got a certain amount back. Any kind of success stories?
One recently, a client we worked with in the equine space. So she's selling education about horse, becoming really, really good as a horse riding instructor, that kind of stuff. We spent $4,000, just shy of $4,000, $3,800 on Facebook video view ads, and then sent it through a marketing funnel, which we'll get into marketing funnels a bit later, and turned that into 200 grand on the back end. So that's like a very, very extreme, return on investment. Or where everyone thinks about traffic as, traffic that you buy, but actually one of the greatest traffic sources is traffic that you own. So sometimes, like for example, that product launch formula we were talking about before, where we did $750,000 working with 2 other copywriters in Australia, $750,000, that was using all the business owner's list, so using their own traffic, and which is really one of the the best traffic sources that you have, and the best ROI, because you've already paid for those. And as you know, the most expensive time of getting a customer is, when you first get them. So if you can get them buying again, it's obviously a much better return on your investment.
Okay, great. And before we get into these 8 points, some people may be thinking, look, digital marketing, is it just like Facebook and, Google and, or is there more to that, right? I'm guessing it comes down to, your strategy and your CRM system that you're going to be using as well, your content marketing. What makes up digital marketing in your opinion?
I think it's all encompassing. So you might need to start thinking about, okay, what is my authority site? So what's my main site that people are going to come back to? Because a lot of people are focused on social media as an example, but things like social media, the real purpose of them is to get people over to your website. So whether you've got content out on YouTube or Facebook or wherever it is, you really want to get people back to your website. Other really key important parts, obviously there's visibility. So how are you going to get, traffic visibility? There's lead generation. So how are you going to capture leads so that you can then create relationships with people and nurture and build rapport, with those people over time? And how are you going to turn site visitors into sales? You spoke earlier about CRM, which means customer relationship management. How are you going to take orders? How are you going to automatically, follow up with people? And another thing that we've been really focused on lately is actually 95% of people don't do what you want them to do online. We call this the 95% rule. So if you know that 95% of people aren't going to take the course of action that you want them to take, then how do you put in different tools and strategies like remarketing, for example, which says if someone hit my website but they didn't become a lead or they didn't buy, let's now follow them around the web or around Facebook with banner ads and that kind of things to maybe create more value for them, or maybe just give them more touches with your brand so that they can become a lead or a customer over time, because it's really about the right message for the right person at the right time. With that, I use my wife Jules as an example. So she may be exact perfect, buying customer for you, but if it gets to 3:15 in the afternoon, she's got to run out the door, to grab the kids or whatever. So, but she comes back online at say 9 o'clock at night. She might see Dale's banner ad and go, hey, those guys were great. I'll click back, and then she goes back to your site and say she buys or she opts in, because then everything's lined up. It was the right person, with the right message, the right time, the right buying intent. So the whole thing comes together. So really plugging the holes in the bucket, but knowing that not everyone's going to take the course of action, right now. It's really about being there to fill in their want or need, when the time is right for them.
All right, great. Now we're going to get to the 8 points in just a sec. The last question is really in terms of the mindset, because one thing is the strategies, which we'll talk about, but what do you need to be thinking about in terms of digital marketing?
Yeah, okay. Well, mindset, you and I are both very, very passionate about mindset. And one of the things I learned from Tony Robbins is, that mindset is as much as 80%, of success of the overall game. We spoke a little bit about it before with, having that mindset of a professional marketer, not being tied to the results. A lot of marketers, business owners, entrepreneurs, we see they go through like emotional spikes, like this, where they get really excited about stuff and then they get really down and that kind of thing. One of the things we found with mindset is just to be, calm about it the whole time. But really with the mindset, what you really need to be thinking about is, who is my ideal target market, and what is it that they want? Or maybe what is it that they need, but what is it that they want is obviously a lot more powerful than, what is it that they need. And then how can I fill that gap for them, and how can I be where they are? Because people are either searching or they're hanging out somewhere online. So in order for anything to work online, they've either got to be searching for it and you put your message in front of them, or they're hanging out somewhere online and you've got to put your message there so that
To continue enjoying this presentation, download BRiN, the world's first business advisor in your pocket. To find out more, visit BRiN.ai or search the App Store today.